My dear friends in Christ, we've been spending this week with Deacon Ponton from the Archdiocese of Baltimore as he's preparing to be ordained to the priesthood of Jesus Christ on the feast of the coronation of Our Lady, Queen of Heaven and Earth. And that will be on August 22nd, and it will be at the Cathedral of Mary Our Queen in Baltimore. Now, most authors, for example, Bishop Fulton Sheen, in every one of his books, he'll conclude the book, the final chapter will be about Our Lady. And there is a special role that Our Lady plays in the life of every priest. And so I'd like to ask Deacon Ponton, what role does Our Lady play in your life? And especially, why is it meaningful that you will be ordained on a Marian feast day in a cathedral dedicated to Our Lady by the same name of the feast day on which you will be ordained?
Yes, that's right. So as a future priest of the Archdiocese of Baltimore, our home cathedral is the Cathedral of Mary Our Queen. And on August 22nd, the date of my soon-to-be ordination, it is the feast of the coronation, the queenship of Mary. So that's really just a blessing to be able to celebrate that. The graces will be strong, will be thick.
And not just that day, but throughout the entire priesthood.
Absolutely. I think when a man even begins to ponder a vocation, a calling to the priesthood, it begins with Mary, because our Blessed Mother in the Gospels she's the first apostle.
That's right.
She's the first one that is called by God.
That's right.
To dedicate her life to Jesus Christ. And we find in her also the model discerner.
Yeah.
Going right to the Annunciation, we find that she is the one who ponders the word in her heart.
At all times.
At all times.
At all times.
So Mary is constantly pondering the word, constantly questioning God's will, and dealing with those very important questions that all of us as disciples have to deal with throughout our whole life. And so she's a model for discernment of what it simply means to be a disciple.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, she questions his will that she might know it to fulfill it. What is his will for her?
That's right. Yeah. And there's a wonderful phrase there. It talks about how she was fearful yet overjoyed.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I think that's such a way to think about the magnitude, the heaviness sometimes that you feel with the priestly vocation, that you feel a bit fearful but overjoyed. There's that balancing of holy fear and holy joy. And I think that posture of the Blessed Virgin Mary, who is the mother of priests, it really just gives us the right context for understanding this awesome mystery that we've been entrusted with. And knowing that this great mystery that we are being called into, it's not to make ourselves greater, but to surrender ourselves. It's always about pointing to Jesus. And so it's so important, I think, as priests to reflect throughout our priesthood on the way that the Blessed Mother responds to Jesus. It's always do whatever he tells you. She's always pointing the way to Christ, and it's never about pointing the way to herself.
That's correct. She always deflects the attention, like the moon reflecting the light of the sun. So Our Lady reflects the light of the Son of God, of her Son, so that she might draw all people to the source of uncreated light. Exactly. There's also something we need to remember too. When Jesus is dying on the cross, he confides Our Lady to the beloved disciple, and the beloved disciple to Our Lady, behold your son, behold your mother. He actually says it to the beloved disciple first, behold your mother, behold your son. And we have to remember that while Jesus is saying that really to all of us as Christians, behold your mother, he's also speaking specifically to an apostle who is a priest, instituted the night before at the Last Supper. And so there is a particular relationship, in many ways, responsibility of taking, as priests, of taking Mary as our mother and as our model, of taking her into the home of our heart, just as John the beloved disciple does. And how does that work for you?
Yeah, wow, that's a huge question, a really important question. Throughout my formation in seminary, there has really been a deepening of this grace of really seeing the places where the Blessed Mother has really been guiding me that often I'm really not aware of in the moment, just as a mother is always praying for her children. And those sort of unseen graces that sometimes really bubble up to the surface. You know, it's actually made me think quite a bit about the important women in my life, especially my mother and my grandmother, who have really been models, people who I've seen that maternal care and protection and love of the Blessed Mother working through them in my life. So I actually think part of my really discovery of those graces mediated by the Blessed Mother have come through very concrete people in my life, particularly my mother and my grandmother. So I think that's how God often works. God always works through the concrete people and places of our life.
Yeah, it's very incarnational.
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to correct myself. I said before that Jesus spoke to the beloved disciple first and said, "Behold your mother." Actually, he looks first at his mother and says, "Behold your son." And then he says to the beloved disciple, "Behold your mother." And he says the same to us. My dear friends of Christ, if we do not have a strong relationship with Our Lady, I'd like to encourage us to have a deeper relationship with Our Lady. And especially, please, as you grow in that relationship, please keep Deacon Evan Ponton, the soon-to-be Father Evan Ponton from the Archdiocese of Baltimore, please keep him in your prayers, and all priests and deacons and bishops. We depend on the prayers of the people of God, the people whom we serve. We're here because of you. And what would a priest be without being able to serve? And what would a priest be without being able to have a mother as Our Lady is our mother? The one who herself, at every moment, just like you and I should do, my dear friends of Christ, at every moment, makes space for grace.